afternoon and welcome to all the participants of the 8th E-Conference of International Agriculture Innovation Conference organized by International Agriculture Association for International Association for Agriculture Sustainability. I am thankful to the IAIC and also the chairman and Dr. Michael for giving the opportunity to Apari and myself for the presentation. May I have the first slide, please? We are thankful that the Apari has got the rich experience in the area, in the Asia Pacific as well as outside, working on the SPS compliances and agriculture trade. And we are 3 authors, along with me, Dr. Shashi Rajendran and Dr. Ravi Khetarpal from Apari are part of this presentation. And I am the one who is presenting on their behalf. May I have next slide, please? This presentation will cover Apari in brief, the phytosanitary challenges in the Asia Pacific, regulatory framework and market access barriers, and the S part of SPS, that is food safety standards, and what Apari has done globally on these SPS challenges will be briefly covered, and the key messages or the conclusions that we draw based on our experience will also be covered. May I have next slide, please? This is a brief about the Apari. Mainly Apari focuses on strengthening the agri-food research and innovation for sustainable agricultural development in the Asia and the Pacific. It is established in 1990 at the initiative of the Food and Agricultural Organization, Rome, and currently we are revisiting the legal status of the Apari as an international or intergovernmental body to be established in Thailand. We have 4 thematic areas mainly: the natural resource management, risk mitigation, inclusive development, policy, and advocacy. There are 4 types of members, country members, international research organization, higher education sector, sub-regional bodies. In addition, the associations, foundations, and trusts also can become the member of the Apari. For the details to become a member of Apari, you can visit the Apari website. Then the project sponsors are listed on my right. That is FAO, FAO-RAP, then WTO, European Union, and other organizations, including ACIR, USDA, and COA, Taiwan. And there are 85 members spread over 33 countries, and there are about 22 countries who are the country core members of the Apari, to whom we extend our services, and not only in SPS and in all other thematic areas also. May I have the next slide, please? Many times the researchers, as well as even regulators, innovation is mainly understood as invention, and there is much beyond the invention. Innovation implies application of that innovation, and change also requires innovative solutions. It refers to, for example, if you take improved varieties, sustainable land management, methods to reduce post-harvest losses. These are the commonly understood areas of the work. But it also refers to processes and organizational reforms, which Apari has really strengthened in building public-private partnerships, organizing farmers in cooperatives, and working with them, performance contracts, and policies. So innovations in these areas are also extremely important as part of implementation process, and that's where Apari has strength. Next slide, please. Then we have what are the key challenges in the Asia Pacific with reference to SPS, and how do we actually deal with them? Lack of digital platforms is one of the things which reduces the efficiency, and lack of public-public partnership and public-private partnership is also a key area, deficient area in the region, which needs to be focused. And also, of course, globally it is important that our not only the agriculture, but even SPS need to orient itself towards climate smart strategies, which needs to be focused to overcome this major challenge faced by the globe. And regulatory issues, many times, several decades back, the regulations are made, and they are not actually dynamically changing in many of the countries to suit to the existing requirements. That's another area. And integrated crop management, good agricultural practices, which are in demand globally, also needs intervention as well as attention. Then the most important thing is the partnership, following the partnership principles and inclusive of all the stakeholders, and compliance to these principles will really bring how we can really meet these challenges. May I have next slide, please? Then we have the real limitations or challenges are infrastructure is limited in most of the countries, and we have the inadequate regulatory framework, as I told you. Pests and disease outbreaks are common. One of the examples is the FAW, fall armyworm, and there are several other examples. Lack of SPS knowledge and capacity, mostly in the least developed countries. Market access restrictions, and do not know how to really access the market. Weak cooperation within the country or with the neighbors or with the importers and exporters. Non-compliance with the international standards. This is a key thing where once they achieve this, they can really expand their market and get a better price and a better trade. Inadequate pest surveillance, which is a very common problem in most of the countries, and monitoring of the pests from the import consignments is also needs attention. The least developed countries as of now are Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Cambodia, and other countries listed here in the Asia-Pacific region, which may change their status with time. For example, Bangladesh is slated to become developing country in 2026, before which we need to pay attention so that when they become DC, they face the SPS challenges in a better way than what they are doing now. Next slide, please. We have the several regional emerging pests, and there are some pests with limited distribution within Asia Pacific. There is some distribution of these important things like BPH, that is brown plant hopper of paddy, the fruit flies, particularly in the horticultural crops, and then brown wheat rust and Fusarium oxysporum, particularly in banana. There are some of the exotic pests which are emerging pests in this Asia Pacific region, and some of the pests like banana bunch top, wheat blast, and then apple blight, coffee berry borer have limited distribution in the region. We don't want that they should spread further within the region also. There is also need to pay attention to the region as well as the exotic pests from outside the region. Next slide, please. We have a very good success story from the Nepal. Nepal produces ginger, and it's an important product for export. But they were facing problems because mostly the SPS issues are taken at the end of the produce and before the export, not in the value chain. So if you see right from the input supply, the primary production practices, and the collection and storage, trading, processing, and export, all these steps, SPS requirement, if it is followed, and as per the live example of the Apari hand-holding Nepal, it really increased the ginger export because the value chain issues, SPS issues are addressed. Now they are able to export ginger without any SPS compliance issues. Next slide, please. This is one example that we are given. And if you come to the regulatory framework, this is not a single regulation in many countries. We have separate regulations for the plant variety protection. And if the seed is exported or imported, these laws will be applicable. Biotechnology research has separate guidelines. Some of them countries have the science and technology the ministries which will regulate these things. And the exchange or trade of genetically modified crops, produce or seeds is also have a special regulations which are either part of the environmental protection agencies or the Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Biotechnology, which needs to be seen that the latest requirements are followed. Then there are certain market access barriers just because of the diverse economies and cultures. And sometimes most of the countries LDCs in Asia Pacific, they are happy with exporting to the neighbor and friendly countries, and they don't get good price. And there is a need to change in these and reach the economies where they can get a better price and also better products for their local consumption and even the safe imports. The political systems in some countries are very well advanced and trying to match with the current requirements. Somewhere it needs to be sensitized, and then there will be definitely some policy advocacy and policy atmosphere, enabling atmosphere for the trade. Sometimes non-tariff barriers are also important and they need to be addressed. Agreements, different types of agreements are already in place, like free trade agreements. Most of the countries have the free trade agreements with some of the countries. In spite of having the free trade agreement, there are certain issues, SPS issues, which are blocking the trade. And WTO, of course, compliance, international standards is extremely important. And many times, many of the LDCs are not exploiting the bilateral trade, which is allowed in the SPS. They are only following the WTO guidelines. Bilateral trade also can be exploited. Next slide, please. We have the challenges to the food safety as we have sanitary and phytosanitary, and with reference to the animal products and their safety. Codex Alimentarius is the one which is important in the safety angle. Pesticides, maximum residual limits, the national code is followed, or international MRLs are followed, or regional MRLs are also there in certain cases. And the different countries are in different stages for these food safety standards. We need to pay attention. Some of them have food safety authorities, but not very active in making things trade happening. So these are the issues which needs to be addressed with reference to the food safety standards. Next slide, please. We have the Apari global operations are there. As I already told you, it's not just limited its operations, particularly in the field of sanitary and phytosanitary area. We have entire Asia Pacific region, and also in otherwise outside in Europe, Africa, and even other continents. There is a presence of the Apari addressing these SPS challenges, and we have successfully completed about 6 projects only in SPS area across the globe, and some of them are in the pipeline, which also we may like to get on SPS. Next, please. And if you see these initiatives, they are spread again. Our experiences are completely different when we compare with LDCs in Asia Pacific region, whereas our contribution is demanded elsewhere in the other continents and other countries when we do that. But you can see that there is a global presence of the projects across the world, and then we are dealing with the, as per the local requirements, SPS compliances for that country as required. Next, please. We have focused on the functional capacities. You know, functional capacity is something largely ignored in the capacity building. Mostly technical capacity is focused and functional capacity is ignored. When functional capacity is missing, their ability to implement the technical collaborations, networking, and also implementation at the ground level is efficiency drastically goes down. When we say the capacity development in functional capacity, there are several areas as listed here. It starts from the, you can see that the communication to the implementation and capacity development strategies we need to have. And it's your ability to navigate the complexity. Trade is a very complex thing, and many times in the navigation for complexities, you miss certain things. And then you can see that collaboration capacity, partnership principles which you need to follow, reflections and learning, and strategic and political process. Many times in the countries, they ignore politics, and then they cannot bring any change. Without enabling policy environment, nothing can be done. So to do all these things, you need functional capacity. How do you communicate? With whom you communicate? what is the right time to communicate, what is the content you should be ready before communication. These are the things which are covered in the functional capacities, which APAARI has introduced globally in the training programs, so that it's not only technical, every technical training also will have a session on the functional capacity. Next, please. We have the recent initiatives from here. You can see several projects which are here on capacity building, R&D. Per se, we don't conduct research, but we implement the research innovations in the development of the countries. Then we have the knowledge management, coordination and networking. You can see in Southeast Asia, and then you have also South and Southeast Asia, West Asia, then WTO projects there, and then you have the European Union and the FAO funding, IFPRI and ACIR, Australian organization. Then we have STDF, which is the key organization, which is having more than 3 projects with the APAARI in implementing SPS capacities in the region and outside the region. As a member of the TAP and chair till 2022, we also contributed to the Tropical Agricultural Platform. Next, please. If you see the key messages from this particular SPS area, these are the key things that we need to remember, that innovation and collaboration, these 2 things, if you improve, your SPS compliance and your international trade will dramatically will change. And then if you also see that ownership to the country, see the project period will be short-lived. When you actually withdraw the project also, the country partners should be able to take it forward. They should take their own decisions, and empowering them with the capacity, technical and functional, is extremely important. Similarly, South-South cooperation is extremely important, which APAARI is focusing. And then these are the 2 areas like SPS diplomacy and bilateral trade, which we are bringing in LDCs particularly, so that they improve. They should know their strengths, which product they can import, which products they can export, then how they can use the SPS diplomacy in protecting their country and also enhancing their trade value also, not only trade commodity quantity, but also trade value also can be enhanced by following these things. All the blocking areas of SPS can be addressed either through research or the available options can be explored. All this is possible when you work with a diplomacy and enhance the bilateral trade instead of only depending on the multilateral trade. Many organizations may fail in adhering to exactly the partnership principles, which are actually GFAR and APAARI together have brought out some partnership principles, which will build the mutual trust and respect, which is extremely important to meet the success in meeting the SPS challenges. Then the regulatory provisions, many times it's a government which needs to make any amendments or the policy orders that they have to bring it to make effective of the current challenges, SPS challenges. So this harmonization cannot happen without the political system taken into confidence. The functional capacity, as I already told you, it's not at one level. It's at the individual level, at the organizational level, and at the regional level. We should look at the functional capacities, and there are different capacities in different areas, which needs to be addressed, and they should be empowered with the functional capacity to take it forward. Then there will be no single solution to all the countries, whether it is Asia Pacific or outside the Asia Pacific. You have to tailor the approaches based on the country's existing situation and unique socio-economic and political situations. Then we move forward to enhance the agricultural trade. And the most important thing is, it's not just bringing a time-bound projects, but country investments and international investments and regional investments are extremely important towards innovation, so that the trade improvement that we bring, it is sustainable and keeps on moving and then helps the countries in their economies. Next slide, please. I'm extremely thankful. APAARI is such a multi-stakeholder organization, and all the partners really are extremely important. We follow the partnership principles very strictly. and thankful to once again to IAIS for giving the opportunity to this conference, 8th conference, e-conference for participation. Thank you very much.